Okay, good evening everybody, and welcome to the July meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting. My name is Councillor Osborne. I'm the Chairman of the Scrutiny Committee this evening. This meeting is being held remotely, obviously, and is being live streamed via YouTube, and the recording will be available afterwards on our RDC website. Councillors and officers are reminded to put their mobile phone onto silent, and if they have one nearby, mute their microphones when not speaking. This will also reduce feedback and background noise and saves bandwidth to prevent loss of connection. If you are a member of the committee, please leave your camera on. We'll first do a roll call to check all members who are expected to attend are present. As I say your name, please turn on your microphone and confirm that you are connected. Councillor Barnes.
Present.
Councillor Carroll.
Present.
Councillor Clark. Councillor Clark, I did see you.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Cook.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Cortell.
Present.
Councillor Drayson, Chairman of Council.
Present.
Councillor Earl Williams.
Present.
Councillor Errington.
Present.
Councillor Gray.
Present.
Councillor Langlands.
Present.
Councillor Maynard.
Present.
Councillor Mooney.
Present.
Thank you. And me. I'm here. Also joining us today, we have Malcolm Johnson, Executive Director.
Present, Chairman.
Dr. Tony Leonard, Executive Director.
Present, Chairman.
Robin Venard, Assistant Director of Resources.
Present, Chairman.
And other councillors, we have Councillor Bayliss.
Yes, I'm present.
Yep. Councillor Coleman.
Yes, present, Chair.
Councillor Dixon. Not quite. Councillor Dixon. We think he's expected. We'll wait and see. I've got down Councillor Madeley.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas, who is not confirmed. So he's not here, obviously. And Leader of Council, Councillor Ivor. Doug, you there? I've got a picture of him, but he's he's not saying. Anyway, there are also two technical staff in the meeting to operate a live broadcast. That's Claire and Kieran. Democratic Services Officer this evening is Louise. You there, Louise?
Yes, present.
Good, good. Members of the committee will be making decisions today by a named vote. Louise will call out each member in turn. They will answer either for, against or abstain. Members, please remember to turn your microphone on at this point. Because of the new format, members are encouraged to make their comments succinct and pertinent to the issue to assist with smooth running of the meeting. Those members who wish to speak, please indicate by typing your surname only into the chat facility, then I can see it. Chat facility is persistent, it cannot be deleted, so don't put anything untoward on it. Officers wishing to respond to members' question, please type interject. Members who have asked a question will be asked if they wish to come back after receiving a response, so there should be no need to type your surname into the chat facility again. It's a requirement that all members have read the paperwork published on the website. Members are reminded not to press leave if you leave the room. Remember to turn off your cameras and microphones. Please be aware now there may be a time delay around 5 seconds whilst the member officer appears on screen. Each item will be reintroduced as we get to it. So there we are. So agenda item 1, to resolve that the minutes of the last meeting be confirmed as a correct record of the proceedings and will be signed by myself at a later date. So there we are. Minutes. First item. Do I have your authorisation to sign the minutes of the last meeting held remotely on the 15th of June as a correct record of the proceedings?
Agreed.
Hello.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Apologies and substitutes. Louise, I don't believe we have any, do we?
No, none received, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Item 3, additional agenda items, there are none. Disclosure of interest. Do any members have any items they need to disclose by members of a personal or disclosable pecuniary interest on matters on the agenda? I probably would think not. But then maybe if you was a member of D4B or something, maybe you should need to declare there. It's up to you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Chairman, same, former member of D4B.
Yeah.
And Councillor Gray, exactly the same, former member.
And I've got a hand up from Councillor Courtauld and one from Councillor Madeley as well.
Same thing.
Same declaration, former member of the Executive Committee of D4B.
Good, and I understand Councillor Dixon has arrived. And Councillor Curtis is having issues trying to get in. Is that it on declaration of interest?
Councillor Coleman, the same former member of Democracy for Bexham.
Yeah, okay. Have you got all those, Louise?
Yes, I have. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, excellent. Right, first item proper, if you like. Agenda item 5. Recommendation be resolved. Cabinet be requested to endorse and recommend to Council that 1. A parish council be created for the whole of Bexhill-on-Sea to be styled on a town council based on the existing Bexhill ward external boundary. A town council to contain 9 wards based on the 2019 district ward boundaries, and that 2 town councillors be elected to each ward, making a total of 18 town councillors. The first elections to be held in May 2021, and then subject to 1, 2 and 3 above, dissolvement of the Bexhill Charter of Trustees and consultation results be taken into account when the transfer of services and powers from Bexhill Town Council are discussed.
Chairman, can I, just before you go on to substance, can we do dissolution rather than disinvolvement? There is no dissolvement now in the dictionary, it's dissolution. We keep using these olvments when they should be the proper English term.
Fair enough. Dissolvement. Yeah.
It should be dissolution. Later on, again, we use olvment, which doesn't exist. There's elution is the term.
Okay. Have you got that, Louise?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Can I move to Councillor Bayliss? I understand you wish to lead on this one.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's a really great pleasure for me to be able to present this report to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. And I hope the committee will support our recommendations to Cabinet. Now, if I just run through those with you, numbers 1 to 3 were the subject of a consultation which was conducted from February through to April of this year. The consultation was promoted through a series of household leaflets, which were delivered by the post office. There were 2 public meetings. My alerts and social media were also used. Again, the consultation showed that an overwhelming majority of Bexhill residents favour setting up a Bexhill Town Council, and this result was in spite of a well-run campaign run by an anti-town council group, and they made little impact on the no vote. There were some interesting findings from the consultation. Older residents were much more likely to support a town council than younger residents, which is interesting given that so many of the Rother councillors in 2017 cited elderly residents on a fixed income being unable to afford the costs of a town council as the reason to vote against the proposition. If council agrees our recommendation in September, we will though need to consider how we engage with our younger residents, as the low results for younger people was disappointing. The wards with the strongest support were St Mark's and Collington ward, where again there were a large proportion of residents on fixed incomes. There was no difference between men and women. In relation to when the elections would be held, we agreed that we should not delay any further and that elections should be held in 2021. There was discussion in the group about whether now was the right time to set up a town council given the COVID-19 crisis, as some families are also clearly struggling. But on balance, we felt that we could assess the situation later in the year when the order is made in December. There is, of course, an alternative perspective that this is precisely the right time to capture the positive community spirit that has seen initiatives from BEAT through to Councillor Langland's food bank collection develop in response to the pandemic. If we can harvest that community spirit, then a town council, if supported by Rother in September, can get off to a flying start. Recommendation 4 is a technicality that the committee needs to note. Item 5 relates to the consultation question around the services that respondents would like a town council to deliver. The most popular option being the creation of a neighbourhood plan, which was cited by more than half the respondents. The results from this consultation will be taken into account when there are discussions with newly elected councillors about which services will be devolved. So, to sum up, residents overwhelmingly favoured a town council option in 2017, community governance review, and were ignored. They voted overwhelmingly for councillors who were pro-town council, and they rejected a Tory proposal for an area committee in the 2019 district council elections. In 2020, even though many were fed up with being asked yet again, responded positively in favour of town council for Bexhill. I get it. I think you as chair, you get it. Residents want a town council. Their message, please just get on with it. I hope somebody will move the resolution.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Clark, I see you've raised your hand.
Yes, Chairman. Just a few comments I would like to make because there's a lot of misinformation flies around. With this second consultation, it's pretty obvious that the amount of people who responded was lower because many didn't understand why they had to once again take part in a consultation where they'd succinctly said what they wanted. And secondly, with the coronavirus, I'm sure people had other things on their mind about worrying about what happens with coronavirus and their own health. Maybe we're not very focused on this consultation. The other point I want to make is because a lot of residents say to me, well, I am in favour of what it will cost. It has to be absolutely clear until a town council is elected and the elected members sit down and decide which services they wish to provide the residents of Bexhill. That would be the time when that costing will take place. So it is not possible at this stage to put out any red herring and say it's going to be massively expensive, or it will be at a very low cost. It would be a matter for those people elected for that town council to make their mind up about what service it would provide and at what cost. Thank you.
Okay. I haven't got anybody else indicated as yet. Councillor John Barnes.
Chairman, Councillor Clark has raised the issue of what the town council will do. I have to say that the bit of this report, as you will know, Chairman, I was in favour in 2016 actually of parishing Bexhill not as one but as 3 councils, and I remain somewhat concerned that Sidley, which is very much a separate community, will be placed under Bexhill. However, that is not my main concern tonight. My main concern tonight, and I don't propose to in any way interrupt the passage of this going through to Cabinet, but I am concerned about recommendation 5. It seems to me if you are going to the expense of electing a town council and the expense of running a town council, to leave the Bexhill special expenses pass with the district council for later discussion is actually a mistake. And when I look at the consultation, and Councillor Bellis has referred to it, there is overwhelming support for the town council to take over those powers. The same argument that leads me to think that a town council is an appropriate route forward also leads me to believe that those powers should be transferred to that town council. Thank you.
Thank you. Malcolm, you wish to interject?
Thank you, Chairman. It's just to make a comment. I mean, I would refer members to paragraph 24 on big page 10, which clearly states that, I mean, the general view of members, and I do say the general view, was that the decision on what should be taken over should be decided by the town council once it's elected. That is a perfectly proper way, or not, it is a perfectly legal way of dealing with it, and there's no problem with that. And I think it's one of the they are. And what it will mean is that in the first year we will need to set.
Is that you or me? got a bit of break up there, Malcolm. I'm not sure if that's you or me.
Now it's me, Chairman. I'm going to try and turn my camera off and see if that helps any. Don't know, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
If I've turned my, I'll try again. But the and I've lost my train of thought now after that excitement. But the issue is very much that it was about working with the town council to actually devolve powers. Until they're elected, we don't know who they are. They won't be elected till early May. But that doesn't mean that district council can't have its own discussions internally before that in the approach it may wish to take. And that's an issue that we would need to discuss with members. But it was felt that to devolve anything in advance, because the list of issues that the public were given was examples of things that other town councils can do, but it is certainly not exclusive, and it certainly isn't all-encompassing for all town councils.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cook, you've indicated.
Yes, I just would like to move that I'd like to move the recommendation as stated on page 1 of agenda item 5. As a councillor on Battletown Council, I know the value of real pertinent local government in dealing with local issues which are irrelevant half the time to the rest of Rother. So I would like to move this recommendation that Cabinet be requested to endorse and recommend these 5 points to Council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And do you have a seconder for that? Got Councillor Cortell?
Yes, Councillor Langlands will second it.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Langlands. I would just confirm, Louise, that we do a roll call vote on this, don't we? You call through?
Yes, we do, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Malcolm, can I just ask a question? It might be buried in here somewhere. I remember at one of the steering group meetings, am I right in thinking that we form a shadow council prior to the elections for the employment of staff, etc.?
Chairman, I did ask that today from the solicitors. The view is the shadow cabinet will need to be shadow council will need to be formed from the 1st of April, whenever the Bexhill Town Council is presumed to come into existence. At that point, it will be made up of existing Bexhill councillors until the election on the 6th of May, whatever the Thursday is. So. But Rother District Council will need to set the budget for the first year of the council. So there's no need to have a shadow. Where it has happened is when unitary authorities are being formed and districts or parishes are being formed out of that, then there has been shadow council. But the view is there's no need to do it in this particular instance, other than that brief period.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I just wondered if I needed to put a number 6 in there, but obviously not. So that's all right. That's all right. Anybody else wish to have any discussion? I've not got anybody at the moment. I've got it moved and seconded. Are you happy to go to the vote?
Yeah, I did put my name in, but at the end of the day, it was more of a sort of comment, really, that I felt that actually, with COVID-19 and looking at how parish councils have picked up the gauntlet and supported their community, it just seems a little bit of a shame that we didn't get ours in 2017, because I'm sure they could have coordinated things really well. But I take up Councillor Bayliss's point that having got to the stage where we have seen a massive support from our community for different things, I actually think when a town council does come about, if we can keep and galvanise that and keep it going, we will have lots of voluntary groups and support that we never expected we would have, and it would make a real difference to what the council takes on.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Not hearing you.
Sorry, I wasn't sure whether you asked
silent for a while, which is why I didn't.
Sorry, Chair, I wasn't sure whether you'd asked me to speak or not. I apologise. Yeah, I just wanted to make an additional comment that 8 of the 9 wards had at least a 2/3 majority, and including Sidley, and that the 9th was just below a 2/3 majority in favour of town council. And I think that gives considerable legitimacy to the project for a Bexhill-wide council, as opposed to segmenting it into regions. My second point was with regards to Bexhill special expenses. I think that does need careful discussion later on, not a point for now, but the thing is, parks and open spaces are only partially funded out of Bexhill special expenses, and the town council would have to take on a considerably larger financial commitment if it took on parks and open spaces. And I'm not sure that when consultees ticked that box, they fully appreciated that point, and that is why I think it needs careful consideration if and when we voted in favour of a town council. Thank you.
Chairman. Okay. Is that John?
Councillor Cortell has just actually pointed to one of the reasons why I think you are going to have to look at this issue of the special expenses. A budget is going to have to be set for next year. That will have to include the special expenses. Will you include them at full cost, or will you continue to expect the other inhabitants of Rother to subsidise them? I think that's a very serious issue, and I think it's one which should be addressed. I'm quite happy to leave all the remaining parts to be discussed with the town council, but it seems to me this whole question of special expenses is being brushed under the carpet and needs to be addressed.
I would say, Councillor Barnes, that special expenses, as they are in Rye, are those expenses only paid by residents of Bexhill for services in Bexhill, unless Malcolm picks me up on that.
No, the point at the moment which Councillor Cortell has made is that the payment by Bexhill does not meet the full cost of those expenses. It's not a huge difference, but there is a difference.
Chairman, if I may come back on your point, special expenses are designed to do precisely what you've said. The issue that we have in both areas is we have is either one around where we have decided that we will retain an area or something like that and deal with it. The other one is about what you actually include as a Bexhill expense. And some areas, for instance, we consider to be Rother assets and not to be Bexhill assets. Councillor Barnes is right, it does need to be addressed. But the view of the members of the steering group was quite clear that needs to be addressed with the town council when it is formed.
Yeah, I think we sort of it's got to get its feet under the table first, hasn't it, and then go from there. So switched himself off.
John, you're muted.
You're muted, John.
Yeah, okay. Look on page 27, paragraph 28, and you will see that there is overwhelming support by those who support a town council for making it a real town council, giving it the work that a parish council does in the rural areas, and those powers certainly are those which I think you could quite safely transfer at this moment to a town council. Otherwise, you will simply have a talking shop.
Okay. Anybody want to try and answer that to satisfy Councillor Barnes, or?
Chairman, all I can do in terms is repeat that the general view of the steering group was that the matter will be considered when the town council is operational and negotiations will be held with them. I mean, I can't really add anything to that from the item of the steering group meetings.
No. Councillor Cortell, you've indicated.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to support Mr. Johnson on this, and I just take the view that it would be undemocratic to do anything else, because it is very much in the hands of the town councillors as to what they should take on, and we shouldn't usurp their democratic right to have a major part of that decision.
Thank you. Councillor Drayson, you've indicated.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to get clear my own brain, and I think it's what Councillor Barnes was referring to. We will still have to set a budget which includes Bexhill special expenses before a Bexhill Town Council is formed. So we do have to consider what's going to be in Bexhill special expenses before there's a Bexhill Council.
Sounds about right, Malcolm?
Yeah, Chairman, which is basically what we do every year when we set the budget, when we look at the Bexhill special expenses. So yes, you're quite right, and it's an issue for this council to decide how it wishes to approach. All that I'm saying is that the outcome of the steering group was that they felt that approach should be taken with the town council in place.
Okay, Robin, you've indicated you want to interject. You've got all the answers, I assume.
Thank you, Chairman. It was probably just actually to support what Malcolm has just said, in the sense that when we set the budget for the next financial year, the general assumption will be, if no services are to be divulged straight away, that the special expenses will continue in their same format as per the resolutions of previous council. So unless we change the resolutions around what costs would be special expenses, then they will remain as is, and the charge will be made on the residents of Bexhill for those services.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, that's good. Right. Well, I think we may as well go to the vote then, to be honest. You happy to do that, Louise?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay.
Right, councillors, I will call your names out alphabetically. Please respond with for, against or abstain. Once your name has been called, switch on your microphone only to vote. If you do not answer after your name has been called twice or contact is lost, members will be recorded as abstaining. Councillor Barnes.
I'm going to abstain.
Councillor Carroll.
Against.
Councillor Clark.
For.
Councillor Mrs Cook.
For.
Councillor Cortell.
For.
Councillor Mrs Earl Williams.
For.
Deirdre's for.
Councillor Errington.
For.
Councillor Gray.
For.
Councillor Langlands.
For.
Councillor Maynard.
Against.
Councillor Mooney.
For.
And Councillor Osborne.
For.
That's 9 for, 2 against and 1 abstain.
Okay. I would say that's passing.
Yep.
Okay. And just to confirm, it was moved by Councillor Cook and seconded by
Councillor Langlands.
That's it, Councillor Langlands. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
Councillor Langland.
Right. Okay. We'll move on some distance.
Page 49, Chairman.
Yeah, I'm nearly there. Gender item 6, page 49 as directed. Subject, Revenue Budget Capital Programme Monitoring Report Quarter 4. Recommendation be resolved that the report be noted and that 2, Overview and Scrutiny Committee recommend any actions to Cabinet as necessary. Robin, you reporting this? You bringing this one?
Chairman, I'm happy to introduce it for members.
Okay.
So this is the year end for 2019-20, and it shows there that overall for the year, underneath that first table, is that we made a deficit of 207,000, and that's quite a bit better in terms of performance based on our quarter 3 forecast, and significantly better than we forecast at the end of quarter 1. So things have improved throughout the year from where we were at the beginning, where we thought things were going to go very, very difficult for us with a very large overall deficit. So overall, we've brought it in about 207,000 over budget. So I think as part of that, just to remind members, is that we had a number of voluntary redundancies at the end of 2019-20, and the total cost of that was some 317,000. But it will deliver a gross ongoing saving of around 490,000 within our budget. So a significant contribution to future savings within our financial plan. Big pages 50 onwards cover the variations for the various services. I won't go through those in detail now, but obviously we'll answer any questions that the members have. But I would just like to point out that the impact on our reserves, which is on paragraph 26 of the report, shows that we were using around about £2.3 million worth of reserves, which is pretty much in line with what we thought we were at the beginning of the financial year. So despite that early forecast of a large deficit, we brought things back and used a very similar amount of reserves than we expected to. Clearly, the use of that level of reserves is not sustainable, and members will be aware of the financial forecast and the plans and things that we need to put in place in order to balance the budget going forward. But that was a pleasing result in terms of where we expected to be. In terms of the collection fund, in paragraphs 27 onwards, our council tax position, we managed to achieve a pretty good terms of recovery for the year, around about 99.5% against our budgeted income, and we were in surplus overall in the collection fund for council tax of around about 950,000. We will get around 95,000 of that, and most of the money will go to the county council as the major preceptor in East Sussex. In terms of business rates, collection again performance has held up pretty well. And overall, we had a surplus of 460,000, and our share will be around that £200,000 mark of that. And that's all taken into account in forward year budgets. I think I should highlight, though, whilst that performance is very good, I think we all find the performance in this current financial year, 2020-21, will decline somewhat because of the impacts of COVID, the number of people who are struggling to pay, increased number of people who are claiming council tax reduction over and above what we budgeted for. So we will see probably a deficit, I'd imagine, in our collection fund in the current financial year. So it's good that performance was good in the last year, but that's not going to carry through, I don't think, into this financial year. In terms of our capital programme, we had a programme of some 14 million, and we were underspent by around 3 million of that. And the majority of that is taken account of through delays in purchasing temporary accommodation. If you remember, Joe Powell was on a programme of acquiring properties in order to help support provision of temporary accommodation for our homeless. Those purchases have been delayed primarily because of COVID and the cessation of property deals, but we're now made a number of purchases which we've seen and improved over the last month or so. So that position has improved this financial year, and effectively that was just a timing issue in terms of the capital programme. And obviously the other issues around the Bexhill Leisure Centre, where members have effectively put that on hold for the time being, and therefore there's been an underspend in that area as well. So in conclusion, our financial position is much stronger than we expected during the year. That's due to the good and hard work of the officers and members within the council in order to control our spend and increase our income. But overall, Chairman, I think it's a good position that we managed to get to at the end of the year. So happy to answer any questions of members that they may have. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Robin. Councillor Dixon, are you there? And if so, do you wish to add anything?
Chairman, yes, I'm here. No, nothing to add, just to thank Tony and Robin for their hard work. And if anyone's got any questions, I'm sure Robin will try to answer them. Thanks.
Very well put. Councillor Errington, you sent me a question and then Robin a question late this afternoon. Has Robin
I'm sorry it was late.
Question? That's all right. Has Robin answered your question?
I haven't checked my email, so apologies, and I appreciate it was very late. It was just about the Black Blackfriars, it's the figures that jump out at me were the Blackfriars where the outrun was 175, but then didn't appear to be any budget, and also the Northiam Recreation Ground. I just wondered out of interest what those were. And also my third question was on the number of people that were made redundant, please.
Chairman, just to confirm, I have responded to Councillor.
All right.
Just to confirm, so all members are aware, Blackfriars purely is a timing issue in terms of when the spend occurred. Yes. The funding is there from Homes England, so there's no issue in terms of the council spend and not being able to cover it. That's all covered by grant. And we didn't have an opportunity to update the capital programme to reflect that timing of spend. Northiam, I think that is, I'm pretty sure that actually is a seal payment to the parish council. It should have been in the line, a couple of lines below in the capital programme, but it got identified separately within the outturn report there. So that's a seal payment. And the number of redundancies actually was 12. There was 12 people remaining.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. That's really interesting, helpful. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Councillor Barnes.
Chairman, I think the revenue budget is in a reasonably satisfactory state, and I congratulate Robin and his team for getting us through the current year so well. I think some of the things that are happening at the end of the year lead me to suppose we are going to be in quite a difficult situation come this autumn, but I'll leave that for our future meetings. I couldn't, however, but regret, and I genuinely regret, paragraph 52 on the capital budget, where we have not managed to purchase temporary accommodation to anything like the extent we planned. And I'm sorry to make my King Charles's head point, but I do think if we purchased demountables and erected them on council-owned land, we would actually have made rather faster progress. That said, I recognise all the difficulties from COVID. I have every sympathy with the officers who are struggling with this problem. I think they're doing magnificently, but I do regret that we are behind on that particular programme.
Can I assume that you would be willing to move the report, John?
I'm happy to move the report.
Thank you. Now I've got Councillor Drayson, you indicated.
Yes, Chair. It's not to say we're any further forward, but I can just tell Councillor Barnes that I did sign 2 documents today purchasing additional properties towards temporary accommodation when I was at the town hall earlier.
Okie dokie. Malcolm,
I think we have 3 now.
No, Councillor Drayson has made the point I was going to make. There's a number of properties that come through recently. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cortell.
Very good news about the temporary accommodation. I welcome it. I've got 3 questions, if I may, and I apologise for not having written to you in advance, Chair. The first is in paragraph 29, concerning the income received. Very good news that there was an increased collection rate of 98.85%, but I noticed that the actual amount has gone down, albeit by $500,000, but I'm just curious as to why. So that's my first question. Shall I ask my other 2 or let Robin answer the first one?
Do you want to answer the first one, Robin?
Thank you, Chairman. If you look, that's the actual net collectible debit, the amount we charge, and clearly there's a change in the number of reliefs that the government have been giving to businesses over the last year or so. So that's why that reduces the amount of income that we need to collect.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
My second question related to Beeching Road, site 1840. Just wondered what the timing was on developing that. Perhaps not for yourself, Robin, and
Chairman, it may be more appropriate for Dr. Leonard to answer that one if he's aware, or I can attempt it.
Councillor Courthouse, can you just repeat the question because my internet sort of went blurry?
I do apologise, Dr. Leonard. The question was the Beeching Road site, 1840. What's the timing for the development?
At the moment, we're in discussions with a couple of interested parties on acquiring the site and bringing forward the development, but they've asked us to keep those confidential at the moment. The property investment panel are aware of those interested parties, but I think COVID has put somewhat of a delay on those at the moment. So that's all I can say at the moment.
Thank you very much. And my final question is the general point concerning the new financial year. Can we have some sort of a ballpark indication from Mr. Venard as to where we stand as a result of the first quarter just ended? Because presumably the various grants from government haven't covered our entire costs. So what is the accumulated deficit that will have to be fetched from reserves or drawn on from reserves?
Do you want to know that now? It was all going so well, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're actually in the progress of pulling together the quarterly monitoring report for the end of June at the moment. The guys have just finished off obviously the statutory accounts process, and they're pulling that all together. We have been monitoring it during the first 3 months. And the projection to the government that we submitted is around a 3 million shortfall overall, including loss of income, additional expenditure, but also one of the big hits is the delay in delivering the savings that were envisaged in our financial strategy, which are around £750,000. So all those factors coming together mean that the hit on reserves is substantially higher than we expected. The level of grant that we received from government is around 1.1 million, 1.2 million that we received so far. That includes the 500 million, our share of the 500 million just announced by the government, of which we got £165,000 from them. They have also announced support for the loss of fees and charges, and it works out at, I think you have to swallow the first 5%, and then they'll pay 75p in the pound in order to support that. The actual mechanism for that and the evidence you need to supply and provide to them, we're yet to see. But once we have that information, then obviously we'll be submitting that to government. So hopefully that will cover a large proportion of our, for example, loss of the car parking fees and income that we've suffered over the last few months. So hopefully that position, I say around a net 2 million at the moment, might improve with those further government grants by the end of the year. But clearly, we can project the cost a little bit more reliably. We're also still in negotiation and discussions with our commercial tenants who've had a rent sort of deferral for a period of time, and we're now in discussion with those as to whether they can pay or whether they are asking for relief from rent as well, and that will have to come back to members effectively as a write-off of income if that proves the case. So there's lots going on, and we will be reporting hopefully the back end of August, early September in terms of that period of or that first quarter moving into July, so we have a better understanding of our finances. But our estimates at the moment are quite considerable cost to the authority as a result. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Robin. Councillor Mooney, you indicated.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I would like to add to Councillor Barnes' congratulations to the management for the good handling of the finances for the final quarter, and also I'm happy to second the report.
All right. Okay. I was looking for a seconder, so you've done it. Second. Okay. Anybody else have any comments to make? No? Should we put that to the vote? We've got to go through the roll call again, have we, Louise?
As it's just a report for noting, unless there are any recommendations to Cabinet, there's no need to do a recorded vote.
No. Okay, well, I just confirm it was moved by Councillor Barnes and seconded by Councillor Mooney. So unless there's any dissenters, I assume we're all in favour.
Yes, I'm in favour.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'll take that as a yes then. That's good. Agenda item 7, work programme. You see from the last page on the agenda, the work programme. Originally today we was down for a waste contract review report. I think there was a reason given that I think we wanted a full annual report as opposed to just 10 months or something. So we've moved that to the next meeting. No, we haven't. Hang on. No. Yeah, we was down at that today, and that's going to come in September, if that makes sense. So that's why we've got a reasonably light agenda today. Councillor Coleman, you indicated.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I just wanted to update the committee that a meeting is now being scheduled for the anti-poverty task group. So I look forward to seeing how we can work alongside the Economic Recovery Steering Group and others to help keep people afloat during this time. So I thought I'd let everybody know that that's going ahead now.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Maynard, have you indicated?
I hadn't actually, Chairman, but just to say I'm disappointed that we haven't got the waste contract review in front of us. I think it was a report that was expected and a very important report, and I obviously look forward to that at the next meeting.
Okay. Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Chairman. As the former chairman of the tourism working group, I did think that this committee was going to review the tourism strategy after a period of time. Obviously, I understand that's not going to happen this year. It would be pointless after what's happened this year. But I don't want it to fall off the bottom of the page. So I wonder if that could be added on the bottom items for consideration. So when we are back to normal, we can look again at the work of that group and see if the work that we did was good and what we can improve on and take that forward. Thank you.
Okay. If you're happy, everybody, can we add that on to the items for consideration? Would make sense?
Yes.
Yep. Excellent.
Yes.
Have you got that one, Louise?
Yes, I have, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Anything to say? Have you
ahead.
Go on.
Just looking ahead, Chairman, presumably at some stage the economic regeneration strategy will come through our hands. I'm not quite sure when that will be.
No. Got any idea, Malcolm?
Sorry, Chairman, it's probably one for Tony, but the Economic Recovery Steering Group are reporting on the 14th of September. I'm not sure if that would, but I will bow to Tony's superior knowledge of that.
Chair, the Economic Regeneration Strategy is, there was a small review of it about 2 years ago. We can bring this back to this agenda if you wish to put it onto the agenda, but when we discussed the work programme for the year ahead, it wasn't debated at that time.
No.
Now, if members want to put it on, it's something maybe for next year we put it on the items for consideration at the bottom to get it on, and then it's clearly on there. Clearly, the work of the Economic Recovery Steering Group will take into consideration as that develops, but it's not an item that was discussed at the previous work programme when the work programme was set.
No, I think the problem, Chairman, is that the world is changing very fast around us. So what we decided to do 2 years ago probably will need to be reviewed, and the Economic Recovery Group, I think, will have recommendations to make. I just think at some stage, if those are going to Cabinet, they presumably will pass across our agenda as well. And I wondered if we ought to get some idea of when that will be.
Point taken, Chairman. I suspect it'd be more towards the back end of the year when the Economic Recovery Group get motoring, because we're tying that in with the East Sussex County Council Economic Recovery Group in order to start getting bids in for funding. So that's the sort of timeline, I suspect.
Would it be an idea just to put it on the items for consideration, just so it doesn't drop off and lose itself?
Yes, I agree with that, Chairman. Yeah, that's fine.
Good. Everybody happy with that?
Yeah, happy with that, Chairman.
Good. Okay. Anything anybody else got to say? Councillor Coleman, report of the Anti-Poverty Task and Finish Group. I assume you've had your meetings or you've started that. I know you're pretty passionate about it.
Chair, as I mentioned earlier, which glad to know you're listening, the first meeting is coming up. I've been talking with Joe Powell and Malcolm about getting that set up as a matter of urgency, and it'll be happening in August. So I look forward to reporting back along with my colleagues on the group when it comes back to overview and scrutiny.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Good. Well, I assume that's it, as long as your internet's as good as mine, because I've had a green screen for most of this meeting. So yeah. Well, I assume that must be it, unless anybody else got anything to say. No, all quiet.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right, that's
Thank you
good.
very much, Chairman.
Thank you.
Night, everybody.
Thank you, Chairman.
Meeting closed, 7:26.
Thank